I'm not gonna lie, when Nintendo announced that the version 2.0 update would be the last one for Animal Crossing New Horizons, I was shocked. But I think I know the reason why. This game sold over 41 million units since its launch in March of 2020. Some absolutely insane numbers, especially in just 3 years. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the only Switch game to sell more, but that's with a 3-year head start and DLC courses that are still rolling out. Animal Crossing is absurdly popular on Nintendo Switch, but strangely enough, this popularity might be the root cause of why New Horizons updates stopped so early, and a sign that, just maybe, Nintendo has bigger plans for the series. With the massive success of New Horizons, it was strange that Nintendo pulled the plug on content updates not even 2 years after launch. They confirmed this in a statement following the big Animal Crossing Direct in 2021, stating that version 2.0 and the Happy Home Paradise DLC would be the final major updates to the game. In retrospect, I guess I shouldn't have been so surprised. When I think about just how much this update gave us, a set of new villagers, the Roost, shops at Harv's Island, and a new paid DLC, 2.0 was massive. One could argue 2.0 just front-loaded the content we might have otherwise gotten spread out over a couple years. Still, it didn't seem to make sense to me, especially after seeing Welcome Amiibo come so late into Animal Crossing New Leaf's lifespan. I had this idea in my head that we'd be enjoying a steady rollout of New Horizons content for several years to come. Not to mention, there's an audience of over 41 million people out there who own New Horizons. Doesn't it make sense to continue working on updates in order to keep that large of an audience engaged? Yes and no. Obviously, Nintendo wants to use the attention the Animal Crossing series has now captured in the most beneficial way. And while more content updates is one approach, I think they might be looking to make a bigger play. With the console being in its 7th year, we know the successor to the Nintendo Switch is coming. And with it being such a huge success, it's not going to be easy to create a good follow-up. But one thing's for certain, no matter what this new console ends up being, it's going to need great software in order to succeed. The launch of a new console is a vital period in its life. That's when it gains its initial user base, the people that will adopt early, give impressions, and formulate opinions on the hardware, which will then help determine how it continues to sell going into the future. And in order to have a strong console launch, a strong launch title might be the most important thing. For instance, the Nintendo Switch launching with Breath of the Wild helped set it up for its massive success. Sure, the Switch is a great piece of hardware all on its own, but having Breath of the Wild there at launch, the game that everyone was talking about at the time, is what made the Switch a must-buy. A successful console launch needs a launch title that's a system seller, and isn't that exactly what Animal Crossing is? Now you might say New Horizons only sold so well because of the time period it released, March of 2020, a time when many people across the globe were forced to stay at home, increasing the appeal of video games, especially a game like Animal Crossing with social and multiplayer elements. And while I'm not going to deny these circumstances might have been a factor, I feel strongly that this was not the only reason for the game's huge success. For one, New Horizons marked the Animal Crossing series' return to home console for the first time since Nintendo Wii, which was super exciting all on its own. Also, at the time we were coming off of arguably the best game in the series until that point, Animal Crossing New Leaf on Nintendo 3DS. A system seller in its own right, many were eagerly awaiting a follow-up to. Not to mention, New Horizons looks incredible on Nintendo Switch. The HD console really lends itself well to Animal Crossing's colorful, striking art direction. Plus, with the hybrid nature of the Switch, New Horizons was set to benefit from both the impressive scale of a home console Animal Crossing and the Switch's portability, fitting for a game series that's also right at home on a handheld. It was the most excited I've ever been for a game in the series, and I know there were many others out there feeling the same way. So all this to say, it was pretty obvious New Horizons was going to be massive, and it absolutely did not take people being stuck at home for it to be a smashing success. As for just how much of a factor external circumstances played in New Horizons sales, we'll never know. But now, one thing is abundantly clear. Animal Crossing is up there with Nintendo's most popular and strongest selling franchises. And perhaps that's why they'll be using the series as a launch title to entice people to buy new hardware. If we think about games that could potentially launch with a Switch successor, there are only a few viable options. Pokemon, of course, but historically these games aren't launch titles. And with Scarlet and Violet's recent arrival, we likely still have another 3 years before a new generation is here. And then there's Zelda. But we all know a big new 3D Zelda is set to drop this year, so we're not gonna see another one for quite some time. And lastly, there's Mario or Mario Kart, both of which could certainly be saved for the next generation of hardware. The data suggests that if Nintendo wants to sell the most possible units at launch, they should go with the new Mario Kart, their best-selling Switch game. And I think seeing next-gen Mario Kart as a launch title for the Switch successor is a strong possibility. But keep in mind, we're still getting the Booster Course Pass, which has been keeping the current Mario Kart feeling super fresh, and will continue to do so until at least the end of this year. Meanwhile, the next best-selling Switch game, Animal Crossing, has been done with updates since the end of 2021. So if Nintendo wants to repeat the success of the Switch and sell as much hardware as possible at the launch of their new console, doesn't the data suggest that launching with Animal Crossing would be the next best logical choice? Because of this, I think it's pretty clear that series director Ayaki Goku and her team are full steam ahead on the next Animal Crossing game for Nintendo's new hardware, especially with Splatoon 3's story DLC being probably pretty close to done, since her division, Nintendo EPD 5, also works on that series. So while it's a bummer that New Horizons updates have ended, I think it spells an even brighter future for the series. And I'm looking forward to the day when I'm playing the Switch successor with hopefully a brand new next-gen Animal Crossing. Because numbers don't lie, and they suggest that we might be leaving the island life for something else sooner than we think.